The Art of Being Ruled. Wyndham Lewis. Original publication 1926. 1989 edition. Narrated by Skeptical Waves. Part 5. Natures and Puppets. Chapter 6. The contemporary man expresses his personality. The class war is of course a notion that extends to every possible class. And sex is of course a very important class indeed, and sex war a very important war. A great deal of abuse has been leveled at Marx by the opponents of Marxism, as the author of this diabolical invention, the class struggle. That is quite natural. It is a tribute to Marx's sagacity, and to the effectiveness of the engine. And it is not to be disputed that Mr. Russell is right when he says that the intensity of organization is increased not only when a man belongs to more organizations, but also when the organizations to which he already belongs play a larger part in his life as, for example, the state plays a larger part in war than in peace. The higher the state of organization, the less individual play, initiative, and ultimately power possessed by the individual so classified. But although Mr. Russell regards such organization as extremely sad, I find it difficult to do so, for the reasons I have just advanced. What is of more importance, of course, is that the people concerned, as I have already pointed out, do not. Men and women like nothing so much as being classified, not, it is true, for a war, though they do not object to that so much as is supposed. They are drugged into a state of anesthesia by the rhythm of their class, but for anything else there is no surer way to their hearts than to invent a new class for them. And sex is of course the most popular class of all. Men have to found a class for the reception of any newly recognized idea of importance. Before it possesses this human repository it is not a fact. To be good, a deceived husband, an artist, a one-legged man, at once lands an individual in some aggregation or class, and adversity or good fortune both drop him in the midst of the strangest bedfellows. But, of course, first of all he has to be recognized as possessing the quality, the goodness, credulity, artisticness, or one-leggedness, or whatever it may be, and, sometimes luckily, it takes people a long time to arrive at the truth, except in the simplest and most conventional cases. Saints often have been known to spend their entire lives in the class of devils, and so on. Instead, then, of the idea being left free to pass from place to place and man to man at will, which would be the dispensation most favorable to elasticity in life, it has to be penned at once or a man representing it has to be penned, with a large collection of people, where it, or the man representing it, very likely will languish. To the herding of men nature attends, some of course can elude her rough herding, but a few sports only. The idée forces, it will be recollected, result in a walking idea, which is the dynamo. And it matters very little what the idea is, though we have an arbitrary class of ideas the adoption of any of which has very serious results for a man. For example, should a man have for his motive idea a potato, should he believe himself a potato, or a piece of potato peel, as it were we clap him in a madhouse. But outside of this there is a wide choice. Generally speaking, it can be said that people wish to escape from themselves, this by no means excluding the crudest selfishness. When people are encouraged, as happens in a democratic society, to believe that they wish to express their personality, the question at once arises as to what their personality is. For the most part, if investigated, it would be rapidly found that they had none. So what would it be that they would eventually express? And why have they been asked to express it? If they were subsequently watched in the act of expressing their personality, it would be found that it was somebody else's personality they were expressing. If 100 of them were observed expressing their personality, all together and at the same time, it would be found that they all expressed this inalienable, mysterious personality in the same way. In short, it would be patent at once that they only had one personality between them to express, some expressing it with a little more virtuosity, some a little less. It would be a group personality that they were expressing, a pattern imposed on them by means of education and the hypnotism of cinema, wireless, and press. Each one would, however, be firmly persuaded that it was his own personality that he was expressing, just as when he voted he would be persuaded that it was the vote of a free man that was being cast, replete with the independence and free will which was the birthright of a member of a truly democratic community. Here, in this case, you get an individual convinced that he is expressing his personality, that he has a thing called a personality, and that it is desirable to express it. He has been supplied with this formula, expressing the personality, as a libertarian sugar plum. He has been taught that he is free, and that it is the privilege of the free man to express his personality. Now, if you said to this man that he had no personality, that he had never been given the chance to have one, in any case, in the standardized life into which he fitted with such religious conformity, and secondly, that he did not want to have a personality at all, really, and was quite happy as he was, he would reply that you might be very clever, and might think that you were funny, but that he was the best judge of whether he possessed a personality or not. That is, he expressed it every Saturday afternoon and evening, and on Sundays, he probably knew more about it than you did, and that in consequence your gratuitous assumption that he did not want one was absurd, as well as offensive. If he were a savage robot, he might confirm this statement by directing a blow at your head. The truth is that such an individual is induced to express his personality because it is desired absolutely to standardize him and get him to rub off, in the process of the expression, any rough edges that may remain from his untaught, spontaneous days. Where the avenues of expression suggested to him are more original and sensational, as in Germany, where the Rhythm Army of Naked Male Life, the Joy Group, or Naked Men's Club of Sun Pals would perhaps attract him, the case is no different, but he is of course then far more convinced, even, that his personality is being expressed. But, drawn into one orbit or another, he must in the contemporary world submit himself to one of several mechanical socially organized rhythms. There is really less choice every day. The number of group personalities available, of course, diminishes just as the number of newspapers decreases. And it seems impossible to dispute that, as regards this side of life, and leaving aside the threat of unemployment and fresh wars, people have never been so happy. The not self, and not the self at all, is the goal of human ambition. And not freedom, or the eccentric play of the personality, but submission to a group rhythm, is what men desire. But even if they did not desire it, it is the condition of all successful practical life, into which neither metaphysics nor personality can really enter. George Sorel's account of his manner of work emphasizes this. You remember what Bergson wrote, he says, about the impersonal, the socialized, the ready-made, which contains a piece of advice addressed to students to whom the acquiring of knowledge that would be of use in practical life was essential. The pupil has all the more confidence in the formulas offered to him, and he retains them, in consequence, all the more easily, if he imagines that they are accepted by the majority of people. Thus his mind is relieved of any metaphysical preoccupation, and he is accustomed not to desire any personal attitude to anything. Often in the end he comes to regard as a superiority the absence of any inventiveness. My manner of working is the opposite of that. I submit to my readers the effort of a mind which seeks to escape from the constraint of past formulas, invented for the general use, a mind which wishes for the personal. Réflexion sur la violence. It is a combination of these two happy things that promises the best result for human happiness. Sorel's desire for the personal is everybody's desire, verbally. That is the ready-made formula, which is known to be accepted by the majority of people. And the delights and proud assertions of seeking for the personal can be undertaken on one big, crowded track, laid down in any of 100 textbooks, with the certainty that everyone else will be seeing it at the same time and in the same place and in identically the same manner.